Kentucky Ancestors Town Hall was filmed at the headquarters of the Kentucky Historical Society. Join us as we reveal Kentucky family mysteries, share tips from our experts, and learn about Kentucky history, telling Kentucky's story, one family at a time.
Thank you for being a part of the Kentucky Ancestors Town Hall. I'm Renee Shaw, and we have somewhat of an unusual reveal right now because 3 people asked if their ancestors were victims of the infamous Harp Brothers. Many of you have heard about the men called the Harp Brothers. There was Big Harp, Micajah, and Little Harp, Wiley, and they also had other aliases. In the late 1790s, they traveled through Kentucky with 3 women, their wives, leaving a trail of death. They posed as ministers or fellow travelers, anything that would allow them to just kind of fit in where they were at the time. And their actions earned them the distinction of being perhaps the first U.S. serial killers. J. Mark Lowe with the Kentucky-Tennessee Research Associates is going to tell us more in this video.
The Harps came over the mountains from Virginia to East Tennessee and Eastern Kentucky. They lived quietly amongst people for a short while, but seemed to find within their hearts an inclination to do worse. They committed their first murders over in the East Tennessee territory. And as folks began to identify who they were, not knowing them as the Harps, they ran to the Cumberland Gap, the Great Way to Kentucky. As they went into that area, it was not long until they killed people on the Rockcastle River. They moved into the Cumberland County area. They moved into the Green River. They were committing murders as they went, ultimately going as far as Henderson, Kentucky, and Cave and Rock, not leaving an area until they had committed murder. They had a very peculiar way of killing folks, tended to do it in a wilderness way, cut their throats, killed with tomahawks. They often would slit them open, fill them up with rocks, and sink them into the nearest water course so that they wouldn't be found for days. They traveled almost back and forth from East Tennessee all the way to Henderson, Kentucky and back on at least 3 occasions, often stopping at friends' houses along the way. It's important for us to know that the Harps were known throughout this area, and they also knew the people who lived here. As folks were moving and migrating westward, the Harps were traveling exactly where they went. They could not have done what they did without having, quote, accomplices in this area. Somebody who would welcome them and hide them and not turn them in. So as we look at the stories, it's important for us to realize these things require something larger.
With friends like that, who needs enemies, right? But 50 victims, 4 to 5 years. It's hard to imagine, but let's learn about some of those victims. And we have with us Mark, who's from Springfield, Tennessee, which is north of Nashville and in a county that abuts Kentucky. Welcome to Kentucky Ancestors Town Hall.
Thank you. Thank you for all the work.
Well, thank you for being here. You asked our researchers a question about the Hart Brothers that centers on your ancestor, Mary Langford Todd. Tell us what you asked the researchers to determine.
Well, it's actually been discussed in the family for over 200 years, and it just keeps going back and forth, and you seem to be able to pick a thread from each direction and you get conflicting information. But Mary Langford is supposedly had a brother that was the first victim of the Harps inside the state of Kentucky. And so it's just been debated back and forth. Is this person really the brother of Mary Langford Todd, which is my direct grandmother? And is the name correct? Is the name, he died as a young man, so there's just a lot of questions.
A lot of questions. We hope we can provide some answers. If you will, let's look at the first document, if you'll flip that over for us. The murder you asked us about took place in this area, and the story goes like this, and folks can see it on the screen as well. Langford came from Virginia, and we think he was going to buy land in Kentucky. In December 1798, he stopped one morning at a public house near Rockcastle River to eat breakfast. The Harps came in while he was there, and they looked kind of bedraggled and impoverished, and must have been a sight because all 3 women, Micajah and Wiley's legal wives, and Micajah had a supplementary wife. You can determine what that means for yourself. But all 3 women were pregnant.
Oh.
Wow, right? The publican asked them if they wanted to eat, but they declined because they didn't have any money to pay. Frankfort's kindness may have cost him his life here.
Yes.
He overheard the Harps and bought them all breakfast. When he paid the publican, the Harps noticed that he had a large amount of money on him, and Frankfort and the Harps, they left the public house together. A few days later, cattle drovers found Frankfort's mutilated body in the woods, and we heard in the video what their preferred method was. So what was the victim's first name, and was he your ancestor's brother?
Yes.
Well, there are some confusing discrepancies in published sources, but we do have some information for you.
Welcome to Esprit, an organization all about care and craft. And as Kentuckians, we know a thing or two about both. It's the recipe for good bourbon and good banking. Esprit is determined to make a difference, simply by being different, much like these Kentucky legends. We've been around for a while, and we know how to handcraft solutions for you, your personal financial cheerleader. We're Esprit Credit Union, and this is Spirited Banking.
Every family has at least one mystery.
And as a member of the Kentucky Historical Society, you can unlock the past through our incredible collection of genealogy resources, available both online and here in our library. Our team can help you discover unknown family histories for a fraction of the cost of a DNA test kit. Call or visit to learn more. Become a member, and let's find your Kentucky ancestors.